Hey everyone, I'm Holden on here, and today we are finally doing another political video. I know it's been like 2 to 3 months since we've done the last political video. I've just been working real hard on the other channel, Time to Grind, right? We did our April 1st subathon, had a bunch of awesome supporters. Obviously, we posted a lot of the crazy fun content that wasn't gaming on this channel. We also released the other 2 videos, Everything I Want to Do Before I Die, and then I worked really hard on the last video, the TikTok to Balloon Cat economy memes. Spent like 8-9 hours editing and recording that video. And I've had a lot of people come into my streams and ask me when I'm going to do my next political Holden on here, either stream or video or whatever. And to be completely honest, I haven't felt sort of motivated to make political content recently, right? Obviously, I've been following up with politics. I'm super into politics, been talking about it with friends and keeping up with what's going on. I just didn't feel like there was much that I could add, right? I have been slowly doing some research for some other deeper dive political videos that I wanted to do. But about a week ago, a couple days ago, I finally decided what I wanted to talk about with all of these anti-ICE protests erupting nationwide, starting in LA, because I think you should be angry about it. You should know about it. If you don't know about it, you should probably be angry and upset about it. I'm sure everyone is, probably for different reasons, depending on the political side of things. But I also know there's a lot of people outside of the US that watch my political videos just to see what the hell is going on in the US. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. And also, I decided to not do a political stream. I wanted to try a little bit different, trying to do more edited content on this channel as well. And so I've been researching over the last 2 or 3 days of what I want to talk about. And that's just what we're going to do here today. So hopefully we can kind of get our point across, very concise, give you guys a lot of information about what is going on with these anti-ICE protests, my take on them, a lot of evidence as well, right? Yeah, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. And obviously, these ICE raids aren't new. We have been deporting people for a very long time. This isn't just new to Trump, but obviously Trump ran on, pro-deportation. We got to get all the criminals and the terrorists out of this country. They're, the Haitian immigrants, they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, all of that stuff, all of the, word salads that, come with that. And he ran on that, and he won on that. And so ever since he, we've talked about it on some of the previous political videos and stuff like that, about some of the insane things going on with these deportations. But it's easy to kind of get used to it, right? It's just been going on since he's been elected. And the problem is he hasn't really been telling the truth. He didn't run on the truth about how he was only going to be going after these illegal immigrants that are criminals, that are terrorists, that are gang members, right? He likes talking about a lot of that, right? But as we have been seeing for the last several months, that is just not true, or the extent of the truth. I'm sure, right, they are pulling up, random gang members, terrorists, stuff like that. I don't think really anyone's going to have a problem with you deporting a bunch of criminals and terrorists, gang members. I don't think anyone's really going to have a problem with that. Now, there is a group of people on the right that I know are like, well, they're illegal, right? They're illegal. They shouldn't have come here illegally if they didn't, want to deal with the consequences. I got 2 things to say about that. First of all, the president of the United States is a convicted felon currently right now. A lot of criminals in office right now. So if all we care about is the legality of things, I think we have some bigger issues to deal with. Also, as we're seeing, it doesn't really seem to be that only dangerous criminals and terrorists and gang members are the ones being deported, right? In late January, you had the Trump administration stripping schools, churches, healthcare facilities, places of worship, right, that previously were protected from ICE raids, stripping those protections so ICE could go into hospitals and schools and try to deport people. You have instances where Trump officials are deporting 2-year-old U.S. citizens, and mothers of, 1-year-old children. You had Trump deporting several people, or in my opinion, kidnapping people, sending them over to El Salvadorian insane prisons, almost gulags, and saying that U.S. citizens could be next. You obviously have the issue of not providing due process. There was the controversy a couple months ago, right, where they just took a bunch of people that they said were criminals and they sent them over to the prison in El Salvador with not really any due process, right? If you're gonna take someone off of the streets and claim that they are a El Salvadorian gang member, you need to provide due process, right? You have to prove that, because otherwise it's just kidnapping. If the government can just grab people off of the street and just say that they think that they are a criminal, that is kidnapping, right? Now, there's actually some fallback and some updates where judges have actually been ordering the Trump administration to provide due process to some of those migrants deported to El Salvador, right? There was a whole giant standoff with the Trump administration where you had even the Supreme Court telling them that, hey, you gotta provide due process. And the Trump administration was like, nah, CRlmao Abrego Garcia, we're not gonna bring him back. We have the power to, but we're not gonna bring him back. Now, they actually recently have brought him back and they're trying him. I believe right now they're claiming that he is in fact a gang member and that they're doing that. I don't believe they've put out any evidence to that, but even if it's true, right, it wasn't about CRlmao Abrego Garcia. It was the issue of due process, right? If you're going to say this person is a gang member, a violent gang member and a criminal, right, then provide the evidence, do the due process, right, that America is based on, in our Constitution, and then deport them. I don't think anyone would complain, but the problem is we just have an insane amount of deportations going on, and it doesn't really seem like there's a lot of due process in place. Even last month, you have the Trump administration setting quotas to arrest 3,000 people a day in, his anti-immigration agenda. You have quotes from Naina Gupta, a policy director from the American Immigration Council, saying this administration came into office with the illusion that they had been given a broad mandate to effectuate an aggressive immigration enforcement agenda, and they're doubling down now on that agenda. Public polling is showing decreasing support for Trump's immigration agenda as Americans wake up to the reality that mass deportations means arrests of our neighbors and friends, masked agents in our communities, and people afraid to go to work and show up to school in ways that undermine our local economies. Then they say, we're seeing the Trump administration take the unprecedented step of arresting non-citizens who are following the government's rules and procedures and showing up for their court hearings. They are desperate to reach a certain number of arrests per day, and the only way they can find non-citizens easily and quickly is to go to the courthouses where the immigrants are doing exactly what they're supposed to. And so you have ICE arrests record number of immigrants in single day, including hundreds at scheduled appointments. And if you haven't seen the videos of these, along with all of the other videos, they are literally going into the offices where these immigrants, whether they're on visas or whether they were here illegally, and are pretty much told, hey, we're not going to deport you, but we're going to put like an ankle monitor on you, or you need to come report to us, once a month, or, whatever it is. And figure out this process. People that are doing what the government told them and are following the rules are being arrested inside the buildings where they're doing the appointments for the immigration process. You have more examples, right? Plainclothes ICE agents arrest 3 at Houston Immigration Court moments after cases were dropped, right? And that's also a very common thing you're going to be seeing, right? Is a lot of these ICE agents, whatever, decide that the best way to do this here is to be plainclothes officers. Most of the time they're wearing masks, full face masks, because either they're shameful for what they're doing, or there's instances where there were some actual instances of people getting doxxed of the ICE agents, so they're like, well, we have to protect all the ICE agents. They need to wear, they can wear full masks. The problem is we're already starting to see reports that, surprise, surprise, if you try to normalize that plainclothes officers wearing full face masks are allowed to just go and kidnap people in broad daylight. And keep in mind, I'm going to use the term kidnap because if you're not providing due process for these people, it is not just deporting them, right? When you're talking about taking potential US citizens, right, as well, that is not deporting them. That is kidnapping them and exiling them, right? And so when you have all of these incidences, well, surprise, surprise, any fucking normal person can just go put on a mask and just start kidnapping people and saying that they're ICE individuals. Because how do you know? Like, how do you know if you're being deported or kidnapped by an actual ICE agent or just someone else if they're not showing you their badge, they're not showing you, any identification, they're in plain clothes, they're wearing masks. It's ridiculous, right? It's just, it's instilling fear in all of these communities, right? And even though, I might not be fearful because I am a US citizen and I believe to be the skin color of people that they're okay with, because also keep in mind, right, a big part of this is it's not just grabbing people, obviously, as we know, it's not just grabbing people that are criminals and gang members and stuff like that, right? They have a quota. And when you have a quota, you got to do whatever you can to get them, right? That's why we're arresting people, from their immigration courts. That's why we're allowing people to go into schools and medical facilities, churches, right, to deport people. You have them revoking visas of international students, telling them they need to self-deport. You have Trump canceling work permits for over 500,000 migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. But then, on the other hand, you have the Trump administration bringing in dozens of white South Africans arriving in the U.S. under Trump refugees plan. And I mean, every single one of these things I'm talking about is a big involved thing to talk about. I have a lot I'm trying to talk about, so I know I'm skimming over a lot of stuff, but it does start to make you think, oh, so you're canceling work visas, you're canceling, these international students' abilities to be here. You're canceling all of these other groups of refugees and starting to deport them by the thousands, if not hundreds of thousands. But then all of a sudden, we're going to bring in a bunch of white South Africans, into the U.S., right? And I'm not someone that's specifically opposed to refugees being brought here, but I think the hypocrisy is funny. You have the group of white South Africans landed at Dulles Airport near Washington, D.C. on Monday, received a warm welcome from U.S. authorities. Some held young children and waved small American flags in the arrival area adorned with red, white, and blue balloons on the walls. The processing of refugees in the U.S. often takes months, even years, but this group has been fast-tracked. And so I don't want to get caught up on these little other sides here, because this is just the preface telling you guys things that you probably already know, that there's a lot of crazy stuff going on, right? And if any of these things just in a bubble was a specific instance, right, we could say, oh, maybe there's, they didn't do things properly. Hopefully they do it in the future. But Trump, at every step and every single part of this, is trying to push the boundaries, is trying to get rid of parts of the Constitution, or flat out ignore them, or flat out ignore Supreme Court rulings, right? Specifically referring to when we're sending people to El Salvador, right? And I know a lot of people just keep on talking about, oh, these illegal immigrants, they're just freeloaders, they're just criminals, they're just gang members. Why are you raiding people at their workplaces? Huh? Why are we going to be starting to use IRS records to find them if they're not paying taxes? You always hear that they're not paying taxes, which is not true. We've talked about that. We fact checked that on a previous episode. But if you guys don't know, a lot of government officials, there's a new app that they all have called like the Alien Finder app. And it tells them when there's people nearby that they can deport using, tons of different government agencies and soon to be, or, in the workings, the IRS as well, right? And you had even Republicans decades ago telling illegal immigrants, don't worry, pay your taxes, right? Even though you're undocumented, we're not going to use that to come after you because the US wants the money, right? And it's proven that illegal immigrants provide more in taxes than they use from social services. I hear it so freaking much that they're draining our resources. No, they actually aren't allowed to use a lot of our resources because they're undocumented, and then they pay taxes. But what's going to happen when you start using IRS data to deport people? They're just going to stop paying taxes. So if we care about making money, if that's all we care about in this capitalistic society, right? Why are we trying to get info from them from the IRS? You even have Trump telling his administrative judges to speed up dismissing arrest cases so they can just be deported faster. And so obviously, all of this has been making people upset. Obviously, it's becoming normalized and just part of what's going on. But as someone that just over the last couple of months, I just keep seeing, TikToks, not that that's full representative of what's going on, but I just keep seeing individual accounts of families being torn apart and people being kidnapped without due process and people being taken from their workplaces, right? And so that is all of the context that you need to know leading to the LA anti-ICE riots. Because in LA, there started to be a little bit of a protest because there was several more ICE raids in Home Depot parking lots and just going after, once again, not just gang members and criminals, right? Working people. And so there started to be protests about that, right? That's one of the good things about living in America is the right to protest. Now, obviously, want to say if you're someone that is protesting, or I'm sure we'll be talking about here up in the upcoming protests as well. Make sure you're not looting and destroying property and attacking police officers, whatever it is, right? Because that's what they want you to do. But overall, although you might not hear it, depending on where you're listening, it was mostly peaceful. Obviously, there's going to be some bad actors in every group, right? People are going to take opportunities to loot, right? There have been instances of looting, right? That's just 100% what's been going on. But it was being handled, right? There's protests before. There's been protests in the US before. So California was handling it, right? What then happened, which stirred a lot of controversy, is Trump deploying the National Guard to LA without the permission of Gavin Newsom, the governor. And I just want to tell you how unprecedented that was. This is actually the first time since the 1960s that the federal government has activated National Guard troops without a governor's consent, a significant break from longstanding protocol, right? Because normally the way it happens is when there's protests, right? Anything like that, right? Obviously there's going to be some looting, some violence that, isn't okay, but, comes with that, right? There's going to be bad actors everywhere. Normally what happens is the local governments and police, things try to handle that. And if they can't handle it, or they think that it's going to blow into something else that they're not going to be able to handle, that's when, a governor will reach up to the federal government or whatever, asking for some help from the National Guard. But the thing is that is not what happened this time. Trump just sent it. He claimed that he talked to Gavin Newsom, which Gavin Newsom claims did not happen. They just sent 2,000 of the California National Guard. I believe then they were sending another 2,000. And so obviously that started flaring up a lot more things, right? The protests started to get bigger and angrier as well, because now you have so many federal government military people, right, coming in and just stirring shit up. It just kept escalating, right? You have the Trump Baltazár threatening LA arrests for anyone who may cross that line. When asked whether Newsom or Bass could be the subject to arrest if they hinder operations, Ton Homan said, "I'll say it about anybody. You cross that line, it's a felony." Trump's border czar Tom Homan said immigration enforcement will continue in LA and did not rule out arrests for California officials if they interfere with the administration's efforts. And I do want to point out, right, the Department of Homeland Security said ICE operations have resulted in the arrest of 118 undocumented immigrants last week in LA, including 5 alleged gang members and others with criminal records for smuggling, drug trafficking, and assault. And once again, I would like to say the problem isn't that there are deportations happening, right? Once again, there have been deportations happening for the last decades, right? It's nothing new, and it's reasonable. If you ask any reasonable American, if you say, hey, if we can provide proof that this person is a drug trafficker or, you know, a sex trafficker or is you know, just literally like an actual violent criminal, can we deport them with due process? 99% of Americans will say that's fine. But once again, that's not what's going on. Why are they going into to workplaces, right? Why are they going into churches and schools, right? Why are they talking about U.S. citizens potentially being in the mix of being arrested and or deported if you don't just let it happen, right? And so this then just started escalating over the last couple days, all while the protests have been going on, right? And we had so many back and forths between Trump and J.D. Vance and a million other high-ranking officials, Gavin Newsom on Twitter. It's insane that all of this has just been playing out on Twitter to an extent, right? But you have examples like Gavin Newsom saying inciting and provoking violence, creating mass chaos, militarizing cities, arresting opponents. These are the acts of a dictator, not a president, right? And this was, you know, in response to, Trump saying if officials stand in the way of law and order, yeah, they will face charges. You even have Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, saying this.
That if you were Tom Homan, you would arrest Gavin Newsom. Do you believe that Newsom should face consequences in a legal way?
That's not my lane. I'm not going to give you legal analysis on whether Gavin Newsom should be arrested, but he ought to be tarred and feathered. I'll say that. I mean, look, he's standing in.
He ought to be tar and feathered. Which, if you guys don't know, was something that we have determined is a cruel and unusual punishment, and we used to do back in the day. And so, do you believe Newsom should face consequences in a legal way? Oh, no, I don't know about that, but I think he should be tarred and feathered, right? So then you have Gavin Newsom saying, good to know we're skipping the arrests and going straight for the 1700s-style forms of punishment, a fitting threat given the GOP want to bring our country back to the 18th century. Then we have 500 Marines, right? Not even just the California National Guard. We now have then 500 Marines being prepared to be deployed to LA, with then confirmation from our Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, saying due to increased threats to federal law enforcement officers and federal buildings, approximately 700 active duty U.S. Marines from Camp Pendleton are being deployed to LA to restore order. We have an obligation to defend federal law enforcement officers, even if Gavin Newsom will not, which also I do believe that there's some false information in this tweet. I think the Marines that are being sent are actually coming from somewhere else, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I do just know it's slight incorrectness, but that's not the point, right? The point is we're sending the U.S. military against the U.S. people without even the permission of the governor of the state it came from. And it's just something that, as an American, at least, I remember growing up and just learning about all of these other, authoritarian regimes that use the military against their own people, and not that this hasn't happened before. There's been so many protests, so many riots, some a lot more violent than others, right? And it's not uncommon for, governors and stuff like that to call for help from the National Guard. But what is happening right now is completely different, right? The federal government and Trump sending in effectively the military against their own people without even permission from the governors of those areas, right? Because Gavin Newsom is claiming that, obviously these protests have, been rough. They've been handling them, right? But they were handling them, right? They have the resources to handle them, right? It wasn't getting to the point where they were going to need help. At least, what Gavin Newsom's saying. And, once again, I'm not someone that's just saying all of these have been perfectly peaceful and there has been no looting going on or anything, because there has been, people, always bad actors, are going to take advantage of situations like these and, maybe start looting, at night. So you have instances like, where the mayor, is putting out statements and, these are just what they're tweeting. I mean, there's also, just for the sake of time, I'm reading these, but they were, going on the news and saying these things, in person as well. But the mayor saying, let me be clear. Anyone who vandalized downtown or looted stores does not care about our immigrant communities. You will be held accountable. You have Gavin Newsom saying, have no doubt, violent criminals who will take advantage of Trump's chaos will be held accountable. Our number one priority has been and will be keeping LA safe. If you're protesting peacefully, stay calm, look out for one another. You also then had the mayor saying
a week
this.
ago, everything was peaceful in the city of Los Angeles and in all of the representatives behind me in their cities as well. Things began to be difficult on Friday when raids took place, and it's important that I begin there because that is the cause of the problems that have happened in the city of Los Angeles and other cities. This was this was provoked by the White House. The reason why, we don't know.
And, whether you agree with everything that, the LA mayor and the California governor, Gavin Newsom does, right? We actually, in our episode talking about the Democratic Party needing to do more, I actually talked a lot of shit about Gavin Newsom and how he felt like he was trying to appeal to super conservatives, right? With his podcast, This is Gavin Newsom, right? And you don't have to agree with everything that they're saying. You don't even have to agree with, how they're necessarily handling it, right? Because that's not even like the real issue. The real issue is we have not, since the 1960s, have not sent the military against the American people without at least the permission of like the governor or whatever, right? And so since, and most likely as, a reaction to this back and forth between Trump and the Trump administration and all of the raids and deportations that they're trying to do, and, Gavin Newsom and their response to it all and stuff like that is, it's been insane. And that has been escalating the entire situation, right? There have been more and more protests. And if you only watch Fox News or you're like some of the previous people that have commented on some of my videos that are like, oh, all of those news articles, those aren't true. You need to go watch this one random YouTube channel, right? If you're someone like that, you might think that with, all of these, that LA is on fire, right? Everyone's getting looted. Everyone's getting shot in the street. Most of the only people getting shot in the street are from the police shooting rubber bullets. There was an instance where there was an Australian news reporter that just got shot by, I don't know if it was LAPD or some of the National Guard or whatever. But a lot of the violence and inflaming does seem to be coming from the military presence, right? But if you're someone that, only watches, news from, far right sources and conspiracy theorists and stuff like that, you might think that all of LA is on fire because that's the way they're talking about it. That's the way Trump's talking about it. He's talking about how, Gavin Newsom was just totally not handling the situation and the whole entirety of LA is going to be on fire and is on fire. And he had to be the Lord and Savior of LA. But I want to show this picture because they obviously, as part of, a way to kind of quell the protests, a very common thing is curfews, right? Saying, okay, you have a right to protest, right? But we need to have a curfew. From 8 p.m. to 6 a.m., you're not allowed to be in this area, unless you work there. Obviously, there's circumstances if you live there, if you work there, there's a lot of circumstances. The curfews were in very small areas. If you want to take a look at LA here, city of LA boundary, there's just a little bitty tiny area where there were curfews, right? And where some of the craziest situations, right, of these protests have been happening. So the one thing I want to tell you is all of LA is not on fire, right? I keep seeing more and more TikToks. And once again, I'm not trying to explain the situation, solely based off the personal experience I have with TikToks, but I just keep seeing TikToks of people being like, hey, I'm recording this on, June 10th, June 11th, whatever it is. And even in downtown LA, where it's supposedly the worst, here's all that's happening. And it's just like a peaceful protest of, like 100 people. And then Gavin Newsom put out like an 8.5-minute video, just kind of addressing the situation, addressing his side of things, him talking about how he thinks the entire thing has been inflamed on purpose because of, Trump and sending in the military to California. So I want to show parts of it. I don't want to show the whole, 8.5-minute video. You can watch it. I'll link to a lot of stuff down below. But someone I watched, Philip DeFranco, actually showed or, kind of cut a lot of the stuff just to kind of give you guys some of the big sneak peeks. Normally, I wouldn't just, show you guys a Philip DeFranco video because like I talk about on this channel, I just try to show sources and stuff like that. I'm not just trying to like paraphrase what other news people are talking about. But in this specific instance, and there'll be one more instance later in this video because Philip DeFranco actually interviewed as a direct source, someone in office right now. But I just want you to see, and we can talk about some of these things that Gavin Newsom said.
This brazen abuse of power by a sitting president inflamed a combustible situation, putting our people, our officers, and even our National Guard at risk. That's when the downward spiral began. He doubled down on his dangerous National Guard deployment by fanning the flames even harder. And the president, he did it on purpose. Again, thanks to our law enforcement officers and the majority of Angelenos who protested peacefully, the situation was winding down.
Which, once again, I would like to point out, right? Once again, protests are normal. It's a very awesome part of being an American, right? As Gavin Newsom said, right? Like, was it perfect? No, but they were handling it. It was winding down, right? Maybe there would have been more flare-ups, right? As more ICE raids happened. I know a lot of these, anti-ICE protests actually started, trying to protect, there was information that they were going to do another raid at another Home Depot. And so they were trying to prepare that and stuff. So, but they were handling it, right?
And was concentrated in just a few square blocks downtown. But that's not what Donald Trump wanted. He again chose escalation. He chose more force. He chose theatrics over public safety. He federalized another 2,000 Guard members. He deployed more than 700 active U.S. Marines.
Which is insane. Once again, the amount of military personnel sent, that is insane.
What's happening right now is very different than anything we've seen before. On Saturday morning, when federal agents jumped out of an unmarked van near a Home Depot parking lot, they began grabbing people, a deliberate targeting of a heavily Latino suburb. A similar scene played out when a clothing company was raided downtown. In other actions, a U.S. citizen, 9 months pregnant, was arrested. A 4-year-old girl taken. Families separated. Friends quite literally disappearing. We're seeing unmarked cars in school parking lots. Kids afraid of attending their own graduation.
And I'd like to comment on, because I don't live in LA, but I live in Texas where there has been active raids going on. I have friends, personal friends that are teachers, and they are having to talk about how they're going to protect their students if, once again, masked, ununiformed, plain clothes officers are trying to kidnap people from schools and hospitals and stuff like that. And so we're having to come together and make plans for what are the schools going to do? Are they going to lock down, right? Because once again, if you're not showing identification, literally anyone could just go drive a fucking van to a school, wear a mask, start kidnapping children. Oh, it's ICE. It's for ICE properties. Like, it is insane. And anyone that normalizes this is part of the problem, right? When Nazi Germany, right, started, arresting people, trying to get Anne Frank, guess what? What the people that were after Anne Frank were doing was legal, right? They were legally in the right to go try to get Anne Frank, right? Because they deemed that Anne Frank was, part of an illegal group of people, right? And I understand that there's so many people, either someone that has gone through the legal immigration process and knows how hard it was. And so they feel like, well, it's not fair, right? That other, people are getting here illegally. They should have to do the process legally. I get that. I understand that. And I understand the general sentiment of, okay, yeah, sure. If there's criminals here and they're illegally here, sure, get them the fuck out. I don't give a fuck. But that is not what is happening. That is a small fraction of what is happening. And that's what the Trump administration is using to defend their actions of literally trying to deport as many people as possible, creating these quotas, stirring distrust in these communities, causing fear for children, right? Children that are going to school worried that they or their friends or their family will be deported and kidnapped, right? Like, it's insane. And so in that video, Gavin Newsom does, talk a little bit more about, hey, don't, like, we're here for the peaceful protests. Don't be looting. Don't be inciting violence. Don't give Trump what he wants, and then he kind of started taking some shots at Trump himself.
Democracy is under assault before our eyes. This moment we have feared has arrived. He's taking a wrecking ball to our founding fathers' historic project. 3 co-equal branches of independent government. There are no longer any checks and balances. Congress is nowhere to be found. Speaker Johnson has completely abdicated that responsibility. And by the way, Trump, he's not opposed to lawlessness and violence as long as it serves him. What more evidence do we need than January 6th? What Donald Trump wants most is your fealty, your silence to be complicit in this moment. Do not give in to it.
And it's true, right? Everything we've talked about, right? From previous political videos that we've made to things that we've been seeing in the last 2 or 3 months, right? We have instances, like I've mentioned in this video, where the Supreme Court, which a lot of those people have been elected or nominated from Trump himself, saying, hey, you got to do things differently, or you can't go forward with X, Y, or Z because it's blatantly illegal, or it's blatantly against, the Constitution. And Trump and them keep saying, and JD Vance keeps saying over and over and over, oh, well, we have a mandate. The American people voted for us, and the Supreme Court is just getting in our way. These people are just getting in our way. We have a mandate. We were elected, right? And this is our job, right? The Supreme Court's just not allowing us to do our job. It's like, no, motherfucker, you got elected, to be the president of the freaking, Republicans won the House and the Senate, right? Sure, the American people apparently have said that that's what they want. And a big part of that, I can put a little bit of blame on, Biden, the Democratic Party. Go watch our video of me shitting on the Democratic Party if you're just wanting, if you don't want me to hear about me shitting on right-wingers anymore. I'd made a single video shitting on the Democratic Party as well. And my thoughts with all of that, right? But you have been elected to do things in the fucking law. Just because you win the election doesn't mean you get to say, oh, well, the Constitution and all of these things. Oh, well, we got elected. No, we didn't elect a fucking king, a fucking dictator, a fucking monarch. That's not what we elected. We elected a president. The American people elected a president, and we elected people into the House, and we elected people into the Senate, right? So follow the goddamn rules. And if you want to wreak havoc within the fines of the fucking laws, I'm going to talk about it and shit on it equally, right? But at least you're still playing within the rules. You can't start breaking the rules and say, well, we got elected, so people want us to break the rules. I'm sure there's some crazy motherfuckers that do, but I think most rational Americans do not want that. And then you had people in the Trump administration, taking shots towards Gavin Newsom, after he put out those statements being like, oh, well, you just have a bunch of immigrants running around your cities and state and causing all this crime. And it's like Gavin Newsom starts fighting back with, actually, your state, your red state has way more of a murder and violent crime, per population. And once again, we have instances, of the mayor of LA, saying the Trump administration told us they were going after violent criminals, gang members, and drug dealers, but they went after a Home Depot. They're going after families and children. That does not make LA more safe. And once again, I have had debates and arguments with people on the far right that are like, they're so attached to this idea that if anyone is here illegally, that they deserve anything that is going to happen to them. They deserve, having plainclothes officers pop out of a van when they're trying to work for their family. They deserve to be kidnapped and have an officer kneeling over their neck, right? And putting them in these holding facilities that are not proper and safe, and fucking sending them over to El Salvador gulags, like that's all fine because they're illegal. But the thing is once again, as I've already said, if all we're talking about and caring about is illegals, right? What about the president? What about all of these crimes that are going on, right? What about, his talking about how he was going to get rid of all of these violent criminals? Once again, if that's all that was happening, that would be fine. I'm sure that there would still be debates. I'm sure that there would be some people that, are so on the left that are like, well, these people could have been rehabilitated or put back in society. We don't need to deport them, whatever. Like, if someone's truly, like, if you can prove that they're a dangerous criminal, fine, I'm okay with that, right? But that's not what's happening. And I'm not even just defending, like I said, I'm not someone that's just gonna, be on Gavin Newsom's side. Gavin Newsom is like kind of an evil person, right? Like, for as a very left-leaning person, right? I have a lot of problems with Gavin Newsom, but it's almost one of those situations where, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? Like, if Gavin Newsom's going to be the only person standing up, or one of a few people in the Democratic Party standing up to some of this shit, I'm gonna cheer him on, but I'm not gonna cheer on blindly every single thing he does, right? Because there's already instances in these protests where LAPD is being accused of trapping protesters before curfew on purpose to arrest them for breaking curfew, right? And so as an example, right, this is one of those things where I said I actually had found a TikTok, and I want you to see this here.
Look at this guy. They're watching this right now for my own safety. They're blocking us in. Are you kidding me? Look at this guy. They're blocking us in. They're everywhere. What are you doing? I actually might get arrested. Just a heads up. I'm not kidding. We can't.
And so what this is, apparently, and once again, I'm learning things, like I'm doing a lot of research. Apparently this is something called kettling, and this is something that the LAPD has actually been sued for in previous protests where they set a curfew, as we showed previously. They then trap a bunch of people in that area that were already there. They tell them they cannot leave, and then they wait until the curfew hits, and then they arrest those people for breaking curfew, right? So I'm not trying to defend everything that the LAPD is doing. I'm not trying to defend everything that Gavin Newsom is doing, but I'm not someone that just plays these things as if they're sports teams. There's fuckery going on both, but the core issue here is obviously one, the insanity that's going on with these ICE raids all across the United States, and obviously the decision to send our military against people without even the governor's consent. And like I said, right, the inflaming of everything going on has just now started protests to happen across the United States, right? And we do have some instances like Greg Abbott, my boy from Texas here. We've talked about how much we love him totally. But Greg Abbott here, doing things like putting out statements saying Texas National Guard will be deployed to locations across the state to ensure peace and order. Peaceful protest is legal. Harming a person or property is illegal and will lead to arrest. Texas Guard will use every tool and strategy to help law enforcement maintain order. And, although I might not like it, right, that is a completely different situation than what has been going on in LA, right? Because that's the normal way it's supposed to be, right? If someone like Greg Abbott decides that he wants the National Guard or whatever, right, then that's within his power to do that, right? But that's how the process is supposed to go. And so as things have been getting more and more escalated and more stuff is going on, we have ICE putting out statements saying that they're going to send special response teams to 5 cities, including Chicago, to do more, ICE raids. I think, where is it here? It's going to be activated in Seattle, Chicago, Philadelphia, Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C., and New York. Right. And as I'm even recording the video today, we have things like Senator Alex Padilla forcibly removed, handcuffed after confronting DHS Secretary Noem during a press conference. So I'm just going to let this play here.
Sir, hands up. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your hands off.
Right, and obviously it just keeps going. And I just want to read some of this, right? Senator Alex Padilla from California spoke up during a press conference by Noem, whose department oversees the immigration and customs enforcement agents at the center of the controversial raids that have roiled Southern California for nearly a week. She's condemned the violence that emerged against the immigration crackdowns and placed the blame on local and state leaders. We are not going away. We are staying here to liberate this city from the socialist and the burdensome leadership that this governor and mayor have placed on this country and what they've tried to insert in this city, she said, raising her voice towards the end to speak over Padilla. Right? That is insane. You're saying that we're here, we've brought the military against the American people, and we're here to liberate the city from their own leadership that was elected? And the follow-up with this is Senator Padilla is currently in LA exercising his duty to perform congressional oversight of the federal government's operations in LA and across California. His office said in a statement he was in the federal building to receive a briefing with General Gouliot and was listening to Secretary Noem's press conference. He tried to ask the secretary a question and was forcibly removed by federal agents, forced to the ground and handcuffed. He's not currently detained, but we're working to get additional information. And then the DHS says Senator Padilla chose disrespectful political theater and interrupted a live press conference without identifying himself or having his Senate security pin on as he lunged towards Secretary Noem. Mr. Padilla was told repeatedly to back away and did not comply with officers' repeated commands. The Secret Service thought he was an attacker and officers acted appropriately. And then they apparently met after and held a 15-minute meeting. Additionally, Noem later claimed to Fox News that nobody knew who he was, even though he says first of all, there's no evidence he lunged towards the secretary. And also in the video that we just watched, he identifies himself, saying his name, saying he's a U.S. senator, right? But the craziest thing about this is, and obviously this has now started conversations around if they can just go after freaking senators, right? I mean, what's next? And the scariest thing about all of this is just the statements about how they are here to liberate this city from the socialist and the burdensome leadership that this governor and mayor have been placed on this country, right? So once again, if you don't like Gavin Newsom, that's fine. I'm not a big fan of him either, right? But the problem is he is an elected official. They have elected all of those people, just like we apparently have elected Trump and Republicans into the Senate and the House, and you just have to deal with that. You can't. I don't know, like the fact that we're skirting past, right, for the party that always talks about, states' rights and, literally getting rid of abortion, right, to make it a states' right issue. But then when we have states like California who try to protect their immigrant communities because that is what they have decided to do, that is what the elected officials that have been elected by the people of California want, then we're now having a federal government that says, nah, we're gonna send the military against our own people and against you socialists. Like it's bad. It's scary. Like we're marching right towards authoritarianism. I'm telling you, it's something I've been saying for the last several months. Okay, so apparently, as I'm staying up late to edit this video, apparently some judge has apparently ordered the Trump administration to return the National Guard back over to Gavin Newsom, but he gave it like a day or two to allow the Trump administration to respond. So the Trump administration then filed to try to get that thing appealed, and so now there's other judges that are having determined this, and I think we'll find out more in the next couple days. But just absolutely insane, right? It just goes to show everything that I've been saying, right? Like, Trump pushes the boundaries of what should be allowed or legal, right? And then all of the judges or Supreme Court justices or anything, try to shut him down, and then they're going to appeal and appeal and appeal. It's like they literally do everything that they can. So it doesn't really change anything in this video. I saw that as I'm editing this video, and I wanted to have this video be as up to date as possible. So I guess that's the update. And once again, this isn't all in a bubble. Trump has recently done another travel ban that he's, banned travel from like 12 countries. I think like 7 of them are Muslim countries or something like that. Once again, I'm not going to dive deep into, a lot of these topics, but, a lot of them are ones that he tried to actually ban way back in his first term. I think, people were calling it like the Muslim ban, where he just chose a bunch of countries that were like all Muslim countries and said, okay, no more. So he's continuing that. You have new things coming out, like ICE moving to DNA test families targeted for deportation with new contracts. Advocates worry the tests will pave the way for the Trump administration to separate children from their caregivers. We have Trump asking the Supreme Court to neutralize the Convention Against Torture. Trump's lawyers claim they found a loophole that will allow Trump to ship immigrants overseas to be tortured. And also, if you're someone that is, only caring about the money side of things, right? Like, a lot of Republicans claim that they care to be, even though we have this big, beautiful bill that is going to increase the deficit by billions of dollars in order to, get, more tax breaks for the ultra wealthy, something that we've talked about on previous political videos as well. But this whole stunt, this whole deploying of the National Guard and the Marines to LA is going to cost around $134 million. And that's not even talking about Trump's birthday parade when this video comes out. I believe this video is going to come out on Friday. Trump's birthday military parade's going to be happening on Saturday. I know there's going to be a lot of protests nationwide with that as well, in which Trump has also said he's okay using force against protesters of his big birthday bash. All of this shit costs money. It costs money to flaunt your power and to be the aggressor using the military against your own people. It does, in fact, cost a lot of money. And one of the other videos that I want to show a small clip of is of actually Hank Green. I love Hank Green. I've actually watched the brothers from Crash Course ever since I was a kid. And there's a couple points in here that he makes. He actually just a day ago made a video about this whole situation, and I would recommend watching this. I'll link to this down below. But there's a couple points in here that I want to talk about. So here he's talking about, obviously, what Biden did, because a lot of people are going to just try to blame everything on Biden and stuff like that. And I want to make sure that you guys know I'm not just playing one side like a sports team here. So I want to play this clip.
News story as it comes out. Here's the broader context. During the administration of the last president, who was a more liberal president, there was a lot of immigration. There were a lot of refugees or people who might be refugees who he said, yes, come into the country. And then we'll slowly, because we don't have a lot of capacity for it, run you through the process of deciding whether or not you're a legitimate refugee and you stay in the country. I think there was a lot of problems with this way of doing things. It feels to me like fixing this or handling it or communicating it well was not on Joe Biden's list of priorities. We could talk about why that might have been. Maybe he was too old to be running the country, but hey, all right, now the liberals are mad at me. Come at me. I'm not gonna pretend like I don't feel that I was betrayed by all of the people who were involved in the decision to have Joe Biden run for president a second time. Whatever, you could be mad at me. It was a huge failure. So yeah, you got that, and it's gonna be a weakness. It's gonna be a way for the right-wing party, who's traditionally anti-immigrant, to come at people and tell stories that are bad. Let's actually look at J.D. Vance talking about this recently with Ross Douthat.
I really do think that social
And so then he talks about how, J.D. Vance and these people use this situation to talk about how, oh, they don't want to villainize immigrants, they're just after, the criminals. But then we're talking about eating the dogs, eating the cats, and it's like, I understand, right? Like there is a genuine conversation to have about immigration, right? There's a genuine conversation to have about deportations, right? There's a genuine conversation to have about Biden. There were a lot of, refugees coming in right now. They were trying to work on programs and stuff, like having apps and stuff to have a path to citizenship and stuff. And it wasn't perfect, right? And we did have more immigrants coming in Biden's administration than others. But unlike what the right would like you to believe, they always talk about how immigrants are committing all of these crimes, right? Anytime there is a instance where there is an immigrant that is, murdering someone or harming someone, they love to bring it up. They love to bring up instances that might not even be true, right? Haitian immigrants eating dogs and cats, perfect example. And when you call them out on it, they just say you're lying. And then once they've been called out too many times, they just drop it and hope that everybody ignores and forgets about them and they go on to the next scapegoat, right? But there have been, and we've talked about it in previous episodes, there is proven statistical evidence that illegal immigrants commit violent crimes at a lower rate than legal immigrants, U.S. citizens. Illegal immigrants statistically commit less violent crimes than U.S. citizens. We also already talked about how, illegal immigrants pay more in taxes than they use in social services because they are not allowed to use a lot of social services. So there's a lot of people that are just upset that non-white people are coming into the country. And I hate to put it like that, but it truly feels like that is what's actually happened. There's people that are reasonably just not wanting more people in the country, right? Thinking certain things are being strained and stuff like that. And once again, there is a conversation to be had. There is a conversation to be had about how the Biden administration maybe allowed a lot of people in without maybe working very hard on having good systems and processes in place for that, right? There's conversations to be had, but the answer is not to be doing these ICE raids everywhere under the guise of we're getting all the criminals and all of the gang members and everything out. And in reality, you're posting up in schools and you're kidnapping people from schools. You're kidnapping people from hospitals. You're kidnapping people from churches. You're saying due process doesn't need to exist even for American citizens. It's just insane, right? And so it's okay to say both sides are bad in an instance and say that there's a conversation to have, but what is going on right now is a straight on march to authoritarianism. Pronounced that wrong, but you know what I mean. And there's actually one or two more clips that I want to show from this. And this is Hank talking about what he believes the right's strategy is at this current moment and why he's frustrated because he thinks it's going to work so well.
The bigger piece, the real reason for my anger is that strategically this is going to work. And here's the strategy. First, do deportations, but do it in a way where you have at the least possible regard for people's humanity and also their rights. So suspend due process. Say illegal immigrants don't get due process. Now, how do you determine whether they are illegal immigrants in that process? I don't know, because you're not doing due process. When you accidentally deport American citizens, what do you do in that situation? You laugh about it. When the Supreme Court tells you have to bring those people back, tell them you're not so sure about that. Kick off a little constitutional crisis. Every step along the way, do things that are like just illegal enough and just immoral enough that many people will feel that there is no alternative but to protest in force, not only protest to make their voices heard, but to literally try and stop law enforcement and ICE from doing what they have been told to do. At which point you have a rule of law problem. Can the person who has been told to do something in the chain of command not do their job because there's a person in front of them? At that point, you have that conflict, and you're very, very close at that point to a riot. You do your best to be as immoral and illegal about it as possible, to make it so that many people believe that the right thing to do is to stop an ICE agent from doing what they have been told to do. So you have two people who feel that it is their obligation to do opposite things in a physical space, and so you have actual conflict and that erupted in violence. Now, people will say they could just do it non-violently, just put on suits and march through the streets. But if you think that these policies and the suspension of due process is illegal, which, by the way, the Supreme Court does too, then it makes sense that you might physically try and stop a person who thinks they are enforcing the law from breaking the law. This is a situation that inevitably will create conflict, and in my opinion, this is a situation that is intended to create conflict. But here's what we now have. We have sides. You can be on the side that's seen this video, or you could be on the side that's...
Oh, and that was the Australian reporter, I believe, that got shot from the from the armed people.
Seen this picture. And those are two different sides, and they love sides. This is strategically fantastic. It is excellent. Control the narrative, look strong, have our opponents look like they're defending violence and attacks on the country. The strategy is very good, but you can only implement it if you don't care about the rules of the nation, which includes...
And that's pretty much just what I wanted to talk about, right? Is like everything that this administration is doing, right? Like Hank talks about, is to force everyday people, when you see these atrocities happening, to stand up, right? To protest, to use our rights to protest, right? And then, right, when they can just paint it all as, oh, LA's just burning, right? That's why when I wanted to show how all of LA's not burning. There's just small little designated areas where they're trying to put in curfews, right? And just small instances of these violent things, right? But if the right and the current administration makes you think that there's just lawlessness and violence, like just insane violence going on, and showing pictures of people, waving flags that aren't Americans flags, right? They can seem like they're the good guys. They're in the right. And I think that's why it is really important to, do a couple things. One, make sure we're talking about, the fact that, we're not hoping that all this violence happens, even if we're someone that supports the anti-ICE, raids from happening. We're not okay with, a lot of the violence happening from, the civilian side. But, instead, we also shouldn't be okay with the military being brought in against the American people to incite all of this violence, while also, like Hank said, pushing every single constitutional crisis, right? I mean, how many news articles have we seen over the last couple months that are, the law says this and Trump isn't following the law. Oh, we got to see what's happening now. Oh, the judges are saying, yeah, wow, that was illegal. Now Trump is saying he's going to go after all of those judges. Oh, wow, the Supreme Court said that what Trump's doing is illegal. Trump says, oh, well, I'm not going to listen to the Supreme Court because the people elected me, right? And the Supreme Court's just getting in my way. It is insane. It is insane. And it's okay to see that there's not perfect, don't look at, two sides and feel like you need to just pick one side and agree with everything going on. Like I said, I don't really like Gavin Newsom. I don't like a lot of what he stands for, what he's going on. But in this individual instance, I think it's important to talk about what is going on, because from everything I remember learning in my history books, it feels like we're just marching straight into authoritarianism. It feels like we're getting to be no different than all of these other dictatorships that I remember reading about in history. And I feel for all of these families and stuff that are being broken up, and all of these communities that are just filled with terror right now, right? Are your kids going to be kidnapped from school? Or is your husband or wife going to be kidnapped while they're trying to work, right? It's insane. And the narrative that the right and the Trump administration is trying to give, that they are just only going after gang members and they're only going after, violent criminals, is not true. And now, if you're someone that still just believes that all of these people should be deported, I extremely disagree with you. But at least be honest with yourself that it isn't just what Trump is saying. It's not just them going after the violent criminals. They are just actively doing everything they can to seemingly just keep deporting people that aren't white? I don't know what it is, because it's like, once again, in one breath, you're deporting people, you're canceling refugee statuses, but then we're allowing people that are white from South Africa to come in, right? And once again, I don't have a problem with them coming in. I don't have a problem with the refugees coming in from South Africa. What I have a problem with is the hypocritical nature of what is going on. And if you want to talk about something that really makes me think that we're like getting into Nazi Germany territory, this is from our government. The Homeland Security posting this: help your country locate and arrest illegal aliens. To report criminal activity, call this: help your country and yourself report all foreign invaders. Like, this feels like something, a poster that would have been put up in Nazi Germany to rat out your Jewish neighbors, right? Rat them out, they're illegal. Right? Well, who said they're illegal, right? Because at the time, right, not all of them aren't even just people that cross the border illegally. A lot of these people, as we've talked about earlier, are just simply people that came legally via refugee status or green cards or whatever it is, right? As we just saw, the Biden administration, there was an increase of immigration, but if anything, like, talk about the Biden administration, right? Let's have conversations about that. Let's try to work with that and work with what we've got going on, versus then saying, oh, we're going to cancel all of this. We're going to cancel all of these. And now they're foreign invaders, which, keep in mind, these are not criminals that have been like crossing the border. A lot of these people came via legal processes, and now they're foreign invaders, right? And we need to tattle on our neighbors and make sure that ICE can come and kidnap them while they're wearing masks and being plainclothes officers. Oh, and also, if you don't think this is all just extremely corrupt, or you haven't gotten a little bit more of the capitalism extreme corruptness, you also can just buy your way into America, right? So, if you're someone that's rich, whether you're a criminal or not, for $5 million, the Trump card is coming. Thousands have been calling and asking how they can sign up to ride a beautiful road and gaining access to the greatest country and market anywhere in the world. It's called the United States of America. The waiting list is now open. To sign up, go to trumpcard.gov. So all of these people that are, foreign students, all of these people that are refugees and came via legal programs at the time that have now been canceled, all of these people that you're deporting, well, we're also going to, sell, you could buy your way in. You could, $5 million gets you. Where's that money even going? I don't know. But it just shows you how corrupt this goddamn administration is. And actually, the newest thing, right, as obviously this is developing, the newest thing that has happened as I've actually been recording this video is Trump has now actually vowed to change changes to the immigration crackdown to protect migrant farmers and hotel workers. So he put something out on his Truth Social, saying our great farmers and people in the hotel and leisure business have been stating that our very aggressive policy on immigration is taking very good longtime workers away with them, with those jobs being almost impossible to replace. In many cases, the criminals allowed into our country by the very stupid Biden open border policies are applying for those jobs. This is not good. We must protect our farmers, but get the criminals out of the USA. Changes are coming, which once again, I would love if that was the truth. I would love if you were just actually going after violent criminals. But I don't think that's happening. And obviously, the president did not specify what changes could be in store to address worker shortages caused by his immigration crackdowns. Critics of Trump's mass deportation agenda have long said migrants who tend to provide cheap labor by working for low wages are an essential part of the country's agricultural workforce. I did not know this, but apparently 42% of farm workers in the U.S. between 2020 and 2022 lacked legal status. And I know I've gotten in debates with, Republicans in the past that are like, oh, so, you're just wanting immigrants just for their labor, just for their cheap labor, right? You're just abusing these immigrants. And one, I'm not doing shit, first of all. And two, right, not that it's okay or not that, the system is perfect, but there's a reason people come over, right? Maybe someone comes over and, maybe they're working, they're working in a place that's not caring about their legal status, right? Working on homes, working in farms, something like that. but maybe they're able to support their family, right? Better, or maybe they escaped violence from their home country. I don't know. I don't know the stats, and I'm not just saying that, oh, well, I want all the illegal immigrants here because they can do our farm work for me. I am looking at it more from the sympathetic point of view, and looking at it from the point of view that, this country was founded by immigration. We've always been a melting pot, right? And I think it's more important to care about your neighbors and feel hurt when kids and families are being broken apart and kidnapped, and American citizens also are being threatened and stuff like that, and I think it's just a side effect that instances like agriculture and stuff are being harmed, right? And it's just insane. And so ultimately, that's really all I have. I know this video actually ended up being way longer. I was like, maybe if I record a video without doing it as a live stream, maybe it'll be shorter, and I'm sure it is. But I just thought that this was something that I really wanted and needed to talk about, right? Because this has been something that has been going on the entire time since the Trump administration, got into power, and it's just only been getting worse, right? I mean, it has just been getting worse and worse and worse, and now to the point where we're sending the military against our own people is insane. And I just felt like I needed to talk about it. And there are protests, right, kind of popping up, everywhere, all across the U.S. and stuff like that. And I actually and there's a bunch of protests being planned for Trump's birthday. I think the Saturday, the 14th. And so if you're going to any of those, make sure you stay safe. I actually have to. I picked up a bunch of contracting work to help pay the bills, and so I'm going to be working a lot on Saturday. But if I'm free afterwards, I'm definitely going to be trying to stop and help protest. But for those of you guys that are going to be protesting or anything, make sure you stay safe. Don't give them anything to use against you. Whether it's vandalizing things or looting. Right. I've also seen a lot of people talk about how, especially for Trump's birthday, it's really important as protesters, even though we might not feel very patriotic right now, to be carrying American flags, right? Because it's real easy for Trump to create a narrative when all of the protesters are, maybe holding Mexican flags or Palestinian flags, and I support all of that as well. But it's going to be harder for him to form a narrative that we're all just being anti-American if we're carrying around American flags, and so just stay safe. I know I've been once again seeing some things on TikTok of seeming to be traps being set up in different places, like in DC and stuff like that. So stay safe. I just thought it was really important to talk about this. I was debating whether I wanted to wait another day or two to kind of see what happens on these Trump's birthday parade and stuff. But I thought it was more important to talk about this as it was happening, and because it's insane. And there's so many people that I think are, one, it's just getting so exhausting, right? To the point where, and obviously that is the playbook, right? Is they're going to throw so many things at us and do so many illegal things that they hope that we just get exhausted and lie down and just let them do whatever the fuck they want, right? But, we can't allow that to happen. We need to speak up when atrocities are happening. And that's the whole point for this YouTube channel, right? Is to give me the creative outlet and creative freedom to talk about these things when I want to and when I feel the need to, right? It's important, I think, so. That's everything I think you should know about the LA anti-ICE protests. Definitely a lot longer of a video than I was originally intending, but we had a lot to talk about, right? From how we've gotten to this point to what's been going on. And I think it's important for you guys to know the facts, right? Because if you only follow one specific news outlet or you only watch content, right? Well, also, don't just only get your political content from me, right? I'm occasionally making political videos, but it's important to not just get it from me, right? Get it from a lot of sources. Don't ever just think that it's okay to get all of your sources from, one or two places, and stuff, because, narratives can be created, right? And I think that's why it's important to talk about what's going on, how both sides are handling it, what both sides are doing incorrectly, and decide what to do or how to feel from that point. Rather, just only getting one or two pieces of information from Fox News and then just determining that LA is on fire thanks to the terrorists and thank God Trump sent the military, right? It's insane. And so, you know, I know I've talked about it before Trump got elected with all the Project 2025 stuff. I know I've made several videos talking about how fucked all of this has been and how it's just getting worse and worse and worse. But this is something that was purely insane. I wasn't expecting, you know, the Trump administration to start sending the military towards other people. And I think there's one or two other states, right? This is a developing situation. There's protests happening all across the U.S. You know, so there are more places that are accepting the help from the National Guard, and that's totally fine. I mean, I don't like that they feel the need to do that, right? A lot of these protests happen to be peaceful. The situations in where they're not, right? Normally, local police places can handle it. But if someone feels they need the National Guard, that's fine. That's not what the issue is. The issue is Trump forcing the military on American people without even the consent of, you know, like Gavin Newsom, the governor, right? And just making situations worse, seemingly on purpose, right? And it's just, I felt the need to talk about it. And I've had a lot of people asking when I was going to make a political video. And so, yeah, so I did a lot of research for this video. Like always, I will link the Google Doc, you know, in the description down below that has some of the notes and a lot of these articles and tweets and stuff like that. I will also be linking the Hank Green's YouTube video. I think you should watch that as well if you haven't, even though I know we kind of went over some of it and stuff like that. And so if you're here in the US, stay safe, look out for your neighbors. It's a scary time for real. Just stay vigilant, stay safe, know your rights. That's about all we can do, right? We gotta hold on in there together. You know, for those of you guys aren't in the US, little glimpse of the insanity going on in our country right now. It does just feel like we're devolving into a dictatorship. I have faith, hopefully, that things will kind of get restored in the next couple of years, but we'll have to see. And obviously, I'm holding on here with you guys. And even if there's, you know, some more time in between political videos, I do intend to keep talking about things. You know, let me know if you like this more just straight format of me just making the videos. I didn't end up accomplishing my goal of making a short video, but hopefully it was a concise video that wasn't being disrupted by chat, you know, so often and stuff. So let me know if you like this style. Still planning to hopefully get some more shorter videos out in the future. But either way, thanks for watching. If you're still watching at this point, it means the most, you know, especially on this just political content, you know, and if you want to see the other political content we've made, got a whole playlist for that, you know, from the videos we've made a couple months ago. Some of it is still very relevant. If you want just a break from politics, now that you've kind of got filled in a little bit, you know, check out all the fun content we've gotten on this channel. Obviously, all our gaming content over on Time to Grind. Yeah, just really felt the need to speak up about it you know, fill you guys in for those of you guys that, you know, aren't as filled in. So, yeah, and give you the evidence to debate with people and talk with people in your life as well that might not agree. But either way, thanks for watching. Make sure you guys subscribe, ring that bell. We're trying to get this channel caught up. We're almost caught up to the Neon Apes channel. The which one is it here? This button right there. Almost caught up to my podcast channel, which there is a new podcast coming as well. So subscribe, ring the bell, try to get us caught up to that. I'm holding on. I forgot how I end these videos, but I'm holding on with you guys, and I will see you guys next time.